There's a force within you that can transform every cell of your body, every thought in your mind, and every aspect of your reality. An energy so potent that ancient civilizations revered it as sacred, philosophers studied it as the engine of creation, and history's most successful men harness it to achieve greatness. Yet, you likely waste it every day without even realizing it. This force isn't merely biological. It's the very fuel of your masculine essence, the fire that can forge a leader or consume a slave. I'm talking about testosterone, but not in the superficial way modern society presents it. I'm talking about testosterone as vital energy, as creative force, as the very elixir of personal transformation. The question that should haunt you right now isn't whether you have enough testosterone, but whether you're using this power the way your warrior ancestors did, or if you're letting it dissipate in empty pleasures and compulsions that keep you small, weak, and invisible. Because the magnetic man, the one who attracts opportunities, who commands respect naturally, who radiates an inexplicable presence, that man has discovered the ancestral secret of energy transmutation that Napoleon Hill codified in his works, but few dare truly understand. We live in a society that has sold you a lie about masculinity. You've been told that being a man is about consumption, instant gratification, relieving tension through immediate pleasures. You've been conditioned to believe that sexual energy is merely to be released, ejaculated, wasted in moments of weakness in front of a cold screen. But the men who built empires, who led nations, who created immortal works of art, who revolutionized science, these men knew something you've forgotten. Sexual energy, when preserved and transmuted, becomes the most potent fuel for any and all human achievement. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the most successful men of his time, and he discovered a pattern that modern society prefers to ignore. They all had mastered the art of sexual transmutation, not through repression or denial, but through understanding that this primal energy, when consciously channeled, transforms into personal magnetism, mental clarity, willpower, explosive creativity, and a presence that naturally attracts success, wealth, and admiration. Imagine a powerful river cascading down a mountain. You can let it run freely, spreading into multiple streams that eventually lose themselves in the arid land, or you can build a dam, channel all that force, and transform it into energy that lights up entire cities. Your testosterone, your sexual energy, works exactly the same way. The difference between the average man and the extraordinary man lies not in the amount of this energy they possess, but in what they do with it. The average man wakes up every morning carrying within him a nuclear power plant of potential, but throughout the day he wastes this energy in small leaks, a masturbation here, a fantasy there, a compulsive pursuit of digital gratification, and restrained consumption of cheap sexual stimuli. At the end of the day, he lies down exhausted, without the energy to pursue his dreams, without the magnetism to attract opportunities, without the vital force necessary to overcome the challenges that separate average men from extraordinary men. But there's another path, an ancient road known to warriors, secretly taught by philosophers, codified by alchemists in symbols incomprehensible to the profane mind. Is the path of transmutation, where impulse isn't denied, but elevated, where sexual energy ceases to be a force that controls you and becomes a conscious tool of transformation. When you stop wasting your vital essence through compulsive ejaculation, something extraordinary happens in your body and mind. Testosterone, instead of being constantly drained and replenished in a vicious cycle of depletion and recovery, begins to accumulate in your system like an alchemic elixir. Your hormonal receptors, which had become dulled by overstimulation, begin to awaken to a renewed sensitivity. Your libido, instead of being a destructive force that distracts you from your goals, transforms into a focused energy that propels you toward greatness. In the early days of this journey, you will feel something you may have forgotten, a powerful restlessness, an inner hunger that cannot be satisfied with cheap pleasures. This is the primal energy awakening within you, like a dragon that has been dormant for years finally opening its eyes. Many men, upon feeling this intensity, run back to old habits, to the easy relief of masturbation, because they haven't been taught to ride this wave of power. But you are not like most men. You are here because you feel in your gut that there is something more, a superior version of yourself waiting to emerge from the ashes of the men you have been. And this superior version is not born from the denial of desire, but from its complete integration and transmutation. As the days pass without energetic waste, profound changes begin to occur in multiple dimensions of your being. Physically, your posture naturally becomes more erect, your shoulders open, your gaze gains an intensity that didn't exist before. There's a presence in your movements, an economy of gestures that denotes contained power. Your voice naturally deepens, carries more weight, more authority. People begin to notice something different about you, even if they can't quite put their finger on it. Mentally, the fog that you may not have even realized existed begins to dissipate. Your thoughts become clearer, more focused. The ability to concentrate, which had been fragmented by years of overstimulation, begins to consolidate like a laser. You discover that you can maintain focus on projects for periods that previously seemed impossible. Problems that used to paralyze you are now faced with a mental clarity that surprises you. Emotionally, something even deeper happens. The compulsive need for external validation drastically diminishes. You stop seeking approval through the consumption of sexual content, stop projecting your energy into empty fantasies, and this previously dispersed energy returns to you, creating a sense of inner completeness independent of external circumstances. You become your own source of validation, your own center of emotional gravity, and herein lies the true secret of magnetic men. They don't depend on the outside world to feel complete. Their energy isn't constantly leaking through 1,000 small distractions and compulsions. It's contained, concentrated, directed. And this energetic concentration creates a magnetic field around them that naturally attracts opportunities, relationships, and experiences aligned with their highest goals. Napoleon Hill observed that the most successful men possessed an indefinable quality called personal magnetism. They'd walk into a room and naturally become the center of attention. They'd speak and people would listen. They'd propose deals and investors would appear. It wasn't just learned charisma or persuasion techniques. It was something far more fundamental. It was vital energy radiating through every pore, every word, every gesture. This magnetism isn't the privilege of a select few. It's your birthright as a man, but it can only be accessed when you stop leaking energy through escape valves that modern society not only normalizes, but actively encourages. Every time you give in to masturbatory compulsion, you're not just having an orgasm. You're literally draining from your system the very force that could transform you into a leader, a creator, a magnetic presence. The ancients understood this intuitively. That's why so many spiritual traditions emphasize the conservation of sexual energy, not out of puritanism or repression, but because they recognize this force as sacred, as the very creative power of the universe manifested in the human body. When you preserve this energy and learn to transmute it, you're literally collaborating with the creative forces of the cosmos. And if you're wondering how exactly this works from a scientific standpoint, let me explain it in a way that will revolutionize your understanding of your own body. When you ejaculate, you're not just losing semen. You're losing an extraordinary concentration of essential minerals: zinc, selenium, magnesium, B vitamins, specialized proteins, and, most importantly, you're disrupting complex hormonal processes that take days to fully recover from. Now imagine that, instead of following this constant cycle of depletion and recovery, you allow these elements to remain in your system, being reabsorbed and redirected to other vital functions. The zinc that would be lost in ejaculation is now available to optimize your testosterone production. The magnesium is relaxing your nervous system and improving your sleep quality. The specialized proteins are being used to build muscle and repair tissues. You literally become a biochemically optimized version of yourself. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you're not constantly activating the neurological circuits of orgasm, your brain begins to rewire those neural pathways for other purposes. The dopamine that would be released in sexual climax is now available to give you pleasure in real accomplishments: closing a deal, completing a project, achieving a fitness goal. You literally reprogram your neurology to find satisfaction in genuine achievements instead of artificial pleasures. And this is where many men make a fatal mistake. They turn semen retention into a new obsession, counting days like a prisoner counting notches on a wall. But that's completely missing the point. Retention without transmutation is just repression by another name. The true power doesn't come from simply not ejaculating, it comes from consciously redirecting that energy towards higher goals. And here, I need to pause and speak directly to you, because what I'm about to reveal could be the difference between you superficially applying these principles or truly integrating this wisdom in a transformative way. If you're feeling a deep resonance with these ideas, if something inside you is awakening as you hear these words, you need to ask you something. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell now. Not because I need numbers, but because you need a constant reminder of this truth in a society that will do everything to make you forget. Every time you're about to relapse into old patterns, every time the compulsion hits hard, you'll see a notification from this channel reminding you of who you can truly become. This journey is too lonely to be traveled without allies, and this channel will be your daily reminder that there's a superior version of you waiting to emerge. Subscribe now, because magnetic men need constant reminders of their inner magnitude. True sexual transmutation happens when you take all that concentrated sexual energy and consciously direct it towards creative activities. It could be building a business, developing an artistic skill, intensifying your physical training, deepening your studies, or any endeavor that demands intensity, focus, and passion. The energy you've saved through retention needs a constructive outlet, otherwise it will build up uncomfortably and eventually force you back into old patterns. Napoleon Hill discovered that the most creative and productive men of his time had intense periods of creative activity that coincided with periods of sexual conservation. It wasn't coincidence, it was conscious alchemy. They had learned to transform sexual drive into creative drive, lust into leadership, carnal desire into the desire for achievement. When you master this art, something magical happens in your social interactions. You stop projecting sexual energy in a desperate or needy way. Instead, you radiate a powerful self-possession that naturally draws people into your orbit. Women sense your presence differently, not as someone wanting something from them, but as someone complete within himself, and therefore able to offer something genuine. Men instinctively respect you because they sense the contained strength in your presence. This is the paradox of attraction. When you stop desperately seeking sexual connection, you become naturally more sexually attractive. When you stop leaking energy through fantasies and masturbation, you accumulate a magnetic presence that makes people gravitate towards you. You become what the ancients called a whole man, someone who has integrated his primal forces in the service of higher goals. But the path of transmutation isn't easy, and it would be dishonest of me to pretend otherwise. In the first few months, you'll face waves of temptation that will seem almost insurmountable. Your mind, accustomed to the dopamine highs of orgasm, will violently protest this new reality. You'll have intense erotic dreams, wake up with erections that seem to demand relief, and feel urges you also automatically satisfied. But each time you resist these impulses, each time you consciously redirect that energy into something constructive, you'll be literally forging new neural pathways. You'll be teaching your brain that you are the commander, not the slave, of your impulses. And gradually, what started as a daily battle will become second nature. The man who emerges from this process is fundamentally different from the man who began the journey. He has developed what we might call energetic self-mastery, the ability to feel powerful impulses without being controlled by them. And this self-mastery extends to all areas of life. If you can master the sexual impulse, the most primal and powerful of human drives, you can master any compulsion, any weakness, any self-destructive pattern. This is true natural testosterone, not just the hormone circulating in your blood, but the hormone preserved, concentrated, and consciously directed towards building an extraordinary life. It's the difference between having a Ferrari with an always empty tank and having the same Ferrari with a full tank, ready to accelerate the moment you decided to pursue your boldest dreams. And as months turn into years in this practice, you'll begin to notice changes that go far beyond the physical or even the mental. There's a spiritual transformation that occurs when you stop wasting your vital essence. You begin to feel connected to something larger, a universal creative force of which you are both a channel and a collaborator. History's most magnetic men, artists, leaders, visionaries, empire builders, all had access to this inner source of power. Not because they were special or born different, but because they discovered, consciously or unconsciously, how to preserve and transmute their most precious vital energy. Steve Jobs had this magnetic quality. Nikola Tesla was known for his sexual energy transmuted into revolutionary inventions.